Am I late or am I just early for the sprint race tomorrow? These questions cannot be determined. It's impossible to know. Impossible to know. Hello, how are we all? We okay? Oh, good. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. Correct. I'm not sure. Not sure I can use that too much of an excuse, but we're here. Right. Anyone got the stream up? Has anything happened? We've got times coming through. We've got drivers out on track. Lando Norris has just come across the start-finish line. I haven't got the chat up. Oh, no. I haven't got the chat. I assume I'm live. There we go. It's just a matter of time. It is. I will never miss a session. Will I be late to a session? Yes. Will I be late to a session often? Sometimes. But we're there. We are. I've now got it. I've got it in front of me. We're on board with Max Verstappen. We've got 6 minutes of the session left. Nothing's happened. Oscar Piastri's fastest of anybody. Max Verstappen's just gone quickest of anybody in the first sector. Of course he has. He's going to win this weekend. Oh, God. Oh, the Twitch stream goes live first. I think Twitch has less of a delay than the YouTube stream. But apologies. We're there. Oh. Has anyone smashed out? I know Yuki Tsunoda crashed in free practice, but I can see that he is there now. Although I can see Yuki Tsunoda is down in 15th place. So clearly not the greatest opening to the weekend for him. Lando Norris within a tenth of a second of his teammate. Max Verstappen, though, lost a couple attempts during that middle part of the lap. Still a green sector 2 for him, of course. His first flying lap of the weekend. And he does go quickest as Max Verstappen by a couple of tenths of a second. We know that he's got a penalty to come as well. Is taking a new power unit is Max Verstappen during the main race. But still needs to outscore the McLarens by at least 9 points per weekend. So Lando Norris, though, coming back at Max Verstappen with a faster first sector of his own. Norris setting a purple first sector time. Ooh, it's already looking pretty tight. The problem is Max Verstappen needs the 2 McLaren cars to have a pretty iffy weekend if he's going to remain in the championship battle. But both Piastri and Norris looking strong in their first opening laps of this sprint qualifying. George Russell has also just put in the fastest middle sector of anybody out there on his first flying lap, although Lando Norris has just taken that away from the Mercedes man. He comes over the line half a tenth of a second quicker than Max Verstappen, but Lando Norris is about to make that tumble as Kimi Antonelli can only go 6th fastest. Pierre Gasly has also entered the top 5. He's now 4th fastest as Lando Norris does indeed take top spot by nearly 4 tenths of a second. Goodness me. Thank you, Sarah. Apologies. You can break out the joke book. That's fine. I love a good joke. Oscar Piastri improves, but he's still 3 tenths of a second adrift of his teammate. Jumps to 2nd in the standings once again, though. Oscar Piastri. That's how they are lined up in the Drivers' Championship as well. In fact, the top 4 of the Drivers' Championship, the top 4 out on track, the only 4 drivers still in contention for the championship. All sector colours. That is a very good point. Give me one moment. We're still in race mode. Boop. Franco Colapinto confirmed for next year at Alpine. Do we like that? Do we not like that? I feel like he's been pretty decent in that Alpine car. It's just the Alpine car has been absolutely nowhere. Got the better of Pierre Gasly in the US, of course, even though he was told to maintain position. I think he rightfully, though, took that position from his French teammate. Will be alongside Pierre for the 2026 season. Only leaves 3 seats available. The seat next to Max Verstappen at Red Bull, Yuki Tsunoda yet to be confirmed. Will it be Isaac Hadjar? Will they go for Liam Lawson once again? Maybe Arvid Lindblad. And the 2 RB seats in the sister team also not confirmed. That's why we don't know where those Red Bull drivers will be situated for next season. Hope it rains for the weekend. It's looking like it's more likely to rain on Sunday, which would be the full Grand Prix. Looking unlikely to rain during this one. Looks very nice in Brazil at the moment. And then it's sort of 50-50 for tomorrow, isn't it? Which software do we use for this stream? We use Multiviewer. They have been wonderful supporters of the stream for a little while now. And here we are then. We come down to crunch time, just under 2 minutes left in this first qualifying session, looking for 16th down to 20th place to set themselves for the grid tomorrow. Currently, Yuki Tsunoda at the bottom of that. The Japanese driver spun out, went wide in turn 4 earlier on today. Just clipped the front of his Red Bull car into the barriers and spun it around. The Red Bull team, though, putting that car back together again. Japanese driver improving in both sectors, comes across the start-finish line and only goes 3rd fastest, and it's a 10.6 from Yuki Tsunoda. I don't think that's going to be good enough, as Ollie Behrman then improves to a 10.0 and goes 4th fastest of anybody. Ollie Behrman on an absolute tear in Formula 1 at the moment. His Haas car launching itself up the standings in recent weeks. Alex Albon also coming around the final corner for Williams, currently 17th fastest, and moves himself up into 6th in that beautiful livery that they've got on the Williams car for this weekend. Made it a GP instead of qualifying. Ooh, I'll sort it out later. It's fine. Hello, Josh, mate. How's it going? Max Verstappen comes across the start-finish line to go 2nd fastest, within 3/10 now of Lando Norris, but still a drift away from him. Although he did break the 1:10 barrier, 1 minute 9 second lap from Max Verstappen there. Isaac Hadjar then goes 6th fastest of anybody. Charles Leclerc looking a little bit worryingly down in 13th place. Franco Colapinto comes across the line to go 15th fastest and take the checkered flag, as Lando Norris is improving through the middle sector. It was a scruffy first sector, though, from Lando, so not improving on his time overall. Fernando Alonso goes 3rd fastest in the Aston Martin. Maybe the Aston Martin the better of the cars this weekend from the midfield. Lando Norris continues and goes quicker still than himself. Purple sectors in Sector 2 and Sector 3 for Lando Norris. But we're looking down the bottom end of the grid. Here comes Lance Stroll around the final couple of corners. He's doing better in the 1st and 2nd sectors, but still needs to find a little bit of time to displace Franco Colapinto, and has found that time in the final sector. So Kimi Antonelli, the driver closest to falling out there, as Lewis Hamilton then jumps up to 10th place right at the end of it. Nico Hülkenberg also through to a Q2 for the first time in a very... Oh no, it's Q3, sorry, that Nico Hülkenberg hasn't been able to get through to this season. Q2, though, is pretty decent for Nico Hülkenberg for now. Gabriel Bortoleto, his teammate, his home Grand Prix, also has made it through. But it's Franco Colapinto, the first driver to drop out. Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, and Carlos Sainz down the bottom there. Esteban Ocon on the podium here last year, remember, during the full Grand Prix for Alpine, a double Alpine podium. And that move over to Haas sees him starting 19th for the sprint race tomorrow. What is the dash through some of the tyre icons? That means they are scrubbed sets. So when they came out of the pit lane, those tyres had been used on the car before, is what that little dash through the tyre sees. You sometimes see it in the race as well, especially if they have started to run out of tyres towards the end of the weekend. But you'll see it quite a bit in qualifying with that strike through as they use multiple sets of tyres. Of course, for sprint qualifying, they have to use the medium tyre for SQ1 and SQ2. Only the 10 best drivers getting their chance at a soft compound tyre. Lando Norris, the quickest of them at the moment. Max Verstappen, his championship rival, just behind. His teammate down in 4th place. Fernando Alonso getting himself in the mix for the podium places possibly tomorrow. Russell, Behrman, Hadjar, Gasly, Bortoletto and Hamilton would have been the 10 drivers safe had that been SQ2, but Albon, Leclerc, Stroll, Hülkenberg and Antonelli will get another opportunity to improve their lap times and get into that top 10 shootout. Remembering only the top 8 scoring points in the sprint race tomorrow, so that's really where you want to be starting. But of course, making it through into the top 10 is another positive step for the weekend. Norris, Verstappen and Piastri very close indeed. Norris quickest by 0.4 of a second though. Verstappen and Piastri within a few hundredths of one another. I think everybody is expecting Max to do something sublime here this weekend, but I think he'll only have the truest of advantages if it is a wet weekend, or at least a wet race. Because we saw last year Norris and Piastri struggling a touch with the wet weather conditions, but actually in the sprint race last year, Norris and Piastri were the much quicker package. It was Piastri who probably should have gone on to win that sprint race, but then Lando Norris was given the position by the team when they were still in contention for the Drivers' Championship, and then that all fell away during the Grand Prix, and Carlos Sainz not very happy at all with how the team executed that qualifying session, dropped down in 20th place and wasn't even close. He was 0.7 of a second slower than Kimi Antonelli. 3.5 tenths at this track is a huge gap in qualifying. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think Lando Norris is looking very, very strong here. And Max Verstappen will need, well, at this point, if we're looking at the pace that we've just seen from that first sprint qualifying, and then you can kind of take the pace from free practice, but everybody was on slightly different runs and slightly different tyres. So we didn't see the true pace of a lot of cars during that first free practice session, and only free practice session. So I think when it comes to that, Max Verstappen could be stronger when it comes to full race pace. But I do think Lando Norris and the McLaren cars will be the stronger car here this weekend, unless the rain, of course, comes into the favour of Verstappen. But then we also said that last year in Qatar, although Lando Norris probably should have won in Qatar as well last year, had it not been for the penalty that he picked up. So I think Max is still in the running, but certainly the championship is in the favour of Lando Norris at the moment. Of course, leading by a point to his teammate, and also has the momentum with him. Oscar Piastri not seen the podium in the last few races, hasn't won a Grand Prix since the Netherlands. Piastri under pressure to perform. Had a week off at least between Mexico and this Brazilian Grand Prix. Maybe he's had a second to recalibrate himself as Oscar Piastri. And now coming at it. Hey, NA, what's the deal with the Ferraris? Just struggling a little bit with pace, I think. They did go for a little bit of a weird run. As you can see, they decided to do multiple laps. Rather than going for like one flying lap, they did sort of a couple of flying laps back to back. So Hamilton and Leclerc. Also on the medium tyre, you never really know what the full pace of the cars is going to be in this sort of sprint qualifying. It can sometimes throw up a little bit of a curveball because you have to use the medium tyre in SQ1 and SQ2. But we will see. Charles Leclerc down in 12th place. Needs a little bit of a push if he's going to get himself up into the top 8 and those point scoring positions. Kimi Antonelli also down there for the big teams. Yuki Tsunoda already out in his Red Bull in a weekend where pressure is on once again, isn't it? They said they were going to make a decision about his future at Red Bull post-Mexico. They then decided to delay that. I don't know how much more Yuki Tsunoda is going to get. Praying for a double DNF? From who? Verstappen and Tsunoda? I agree. Here we go then. Gabriel Bortoleto gets a standing ovation from the crowd as he comes out first of the drivers for this SQ2 session. Ollie Behrman and Nico Hülkenberg behind him. Alex Albon making his way out of the pit lane as well. It's a little bit of a weird pit lane here in Brazil. You do come out post turn 3 and sort of in the run down towards turn 4. So you do sort of cut yourself through turn 1 and turn 2. And then slot himself in. Post turn 3. Here comes Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Isaac Hadjar also coming down the pit straight. Or the pit lane, sorry. And Gabriel Bortoleto making his way down the pit straight is what I was looking at. Bortoleto's going to get us underway here then for this second sprint qualifying session. Bortoleto, the first Brazilian with a chance at scoring points. Felipe Massa, the last. This weekend would be spectacular if Gabriel Bortoleto can get himself on the score sheets. The one fun fact I mention every year is that the pit lane covers half the track. That is a pretty cool little fact. Yeah, I suppose it does. If you look at like the track map where it comes in and out. You enter just before turn 15, exit just after turn 3. Good fact. Very good fact. Gabriel Bortoleto. Pretty handy through the middle part of the lap. Let's see what his lap time is coming around turn 14 through 15 he comes, and across the line. A 19.9 is an improvement from Gabriel Bortoleto, and very strong indeed. Bortoleto's family in the Stake Sauber garage for this weekend. Ollie Behrman not quite as quick as Bortoleto, and then, Nico Hülkenberg is the Stake Sauber car ahead. Thought Bortoleto was still at the top, but it's actually Nico Hülkenberg, a 1 minute 9 second 0.7 lap from Nico. Alex Albon slots his Williams into second place, but Max Verstappen has just gone quickest of anybody in the first sector. Leclerc still behind Fernando Alonso's time as Alonso comes across the line to set a 1 minute 9 second 0.3 lap time. Leclerc and Hamilton adrift. Here comes Charles Leclerc across the line. So only third fastest from Leclerc. He's 0.4 of a second off the leading Aston Martin and even behind Lance Stroll's Aston Martin car. Lewis Hamilton also slots in behind Nico Hülkenberg into 5th place. Max Verstappen now flying through the middle part of the lap has very solid first sector from Max Verstappen. Can he back it up to go top of the timing sheets? No, it's a little bit off the pace. Max Verstappen, 0.4 of a second adrift of Fernando Alonso, who still leads. Isaac Hadjar has displaced Lance Stroll from second place. The Frenchman now up into second. And possibly a little bit of an error from Max Verstappen, struggling for pace in that middle part of the lap as Lando Norris comes through the first sector. Not purple from Lando Norris either. Max Verstappen still holding on to that fastest first sector time. Norris a 1/10 of a second adrift of Max Verstappen's first sector. Pierre Gasly then comes across to take that fastest first sector of anybody. And Oscar Piastri actually quicker than Lando Norris through the first part of the lap, but Lando Norris now coming through turn 10 and sweeping around turn 11, trying to carry that momentum down into the final sector. Has improved again. Lando Norris, a fairly decent middle sector, a 35.3 from the Briton. Final run down. As soon as you get out of turn 12, it is pedal to the floor all the way around to the line, and Lando Norris can only go second fastest. It was very, very close. A purple final sector, not quite good enough for Lando Norris to take first place. Pierre Gasly, despite that purple first sector, only goes 10th fastest of the time so far, and Pierre Gasly is going to put him down into that bottom 5 as he comes across the line third fastest. Russell comes across the line fourth fastest, and Kimi Antonelli, the final driver to set a flying lap time. Here he comes around turn 15, and it's fifth fastest for Kimi Antonelli. That puts Lewis Hamilton down into that bottom 5. The Brazilian driver, honorary Brazilian driver, down in 11th place. Alex Albon in 12th. Pierre Gasly 13th. Ollie Behrman 14th. And the real Brazilian driver, Gabriel Bortoleto, down in 15th for now. Still time for these guys to improve. Just under 4 minutes to run in this SQ2 session. 10 drivers will make it through. Just a reminder for those of you joining us, Colapinto, Lawson, Sonoda, Ocon and Sainz, the 5 drivers that dropped out earlier on today. Colapinto, the closest. Carlos Sainz, very unhappy with the Williams team. But Fernando Alonso, currently the fastest man out on track. 3 laps on those medium tyres and quickest of anybody so far, a 1 minute 9 second .330 from Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri within a 1/10 of a second of the Spaniards. George Russell just over a 1/10, Kimi Antonelli the same. Then the gap increases. Isaac Hadjar nearly 0.3 of a second. Lance Stroll 0.3 of a second off of his teammate Verstappen, all the way down in 8th place. Again, in a weekend where this is pivotal for the Drivers' Championship. A poor weekend from Verstappen here, and the dream does feel like it is over. Needs to outscore the McLarens by 9 points across the final 4 race weekends. So if he doesn't do it this time around, just makes it, I think as soon as it gets past that 10-point gap, he needs to outscore the McLarens by over 10 points per weekend. I know that we've got one more sprint weekend in Qatar, but it does feel like the dream, even though he went from 104 points behind Oscar Piastri with 9 races to go to now just 36 behind Lando Norris. It does feel like that is just a little bit too much even for Max Verstappen to do. But Isaac Hadjar has had a poor first sector. He's currently 6th fastest. Oh, and a big lockup from Isaac Hadjar as well. His rear right tyre smoking as he was trying to come through the middle part of the lap. Turn 10 is a tricky corner to nail, and it's such an important one to carry that momentum through turn 11, then really attack into turn 12. And that's basically your whole final sector. You come through turn 12 and you want to get as big of a launch as possible because it's flat out all the way around 13, 14 and 15. And across the start-finish line, here comes Gabriel Bortoleto, currently 15th fastest. His first home Grand Prix in a Formula One car. Of course, has been around this track a few times in various machinery on his way up to Formula One, but hasn't quite ever been in something this quick around the Brazilian circuit. Improves through the middle part of the lap, does Nico Hülkenberg. Does Gabriel Bortoleto. He's just a 10th or so of a second quicker than Nico Hülkenberg. It's going to be very close indeed as to whether he's going to make it through. And Bortoleto does not improve enough. A poor final sector means he's going to drop out. And 14th place could become 15th. Max Verstappen with a slow first sector as well. Is that Max Verstappen's? Oh, and there's a double waved yellow. And it's Charles Leclerc in the middle part of the lap. And I think Leclerc has gone for a spin. And Leclerc has indeed gone for a spin. Meaning the double waved yellows have come out for Lewis Hamilton, who was behind him. And that might have caused Lewis Hamilton to have to slow down just enough to kill his final flying lap time. Here comes Lewis Hamilton around the final corner and does not improve. Lewis Hamilton is out. Oh, that is painful, isn't it, for Lewis Hamilton? His teammate ahead of him, the driver that spun, and the yellow flags waving mean he could not improve. Knocked out by just under a tenth of a second. Charles Leclerc comes across the start-finish line to take that. 9th place. It's not incredible from him either. Nico Hülkenberg sneaks through in 10th. Hamilton, Albon, Gasly, Bortoleto, and Behrman, the 5 drivers to drop out in the second part of the sprint. So it is Hamilton, Albon, Gasly, Bortoleto, and Behrman, 11th through 15th. They join Colapinto, Lawson, Tsunoda, Ocon, and Sainz as being out of qualifying. It's the first time we've seen Nico Hülkenberg in a Q3 for a very, very long time. Stake Sauber have really struggled in terms of their qualifying pace over the last few race weekends. But Hülkenberg maybe just finding a bit of a rhythm and also getting a little bit lucky with Charles Leclerc spinning in front of him. Here's the replay of what Charles Leclerc did then. Comes up towards turn 10. It is a clumsy corner, turn 10. And he gets it all wrong. Locks up the front left. And then spins it around as he tries to get on the power in the exit. And there's Lewis Hamilton coming by, who had to slow down due to Charles Leclerc pointing in the wrong direction. And locked up. Went really wide. Tried to get on the power a little bit too early. And it is a cataclysmic mistake from Charles Leclerc. And I think he's just got maybe annoyed at himself there as to why he's got on the pedal just a little bit earlier than he should do, right? Because he was actually improving. He's doing fairly well. He's coming to turn 10, which is the final real test, you could say, of the lap. I know turn 12 you've got a nail as well, but turn 10 is maybe the most awkward corner of the entire Grand Prix circuit. He's just got it all wrong. Comes into the lap, locks up, goes wide, and then pushes himself to a point where, yeah, I think that's just frustration from Charles Leclerc. He just gets on the throttle way earlier than he should do, really. Hamilton is out. He is indeed. He will start the sprint race from 11th place. We've seen Lewis Hamilton do spectacular things in sprint races here, though. Remember back to 2021, where he absolutely flew around. I don't blame Leclerc. The Lyco cars are terrible anyways. I mean, yeah, the Ferrari is not looking quick around here, but it is a Charles Leclerc mistake. Let's not beat around the bush. I think he would say that himself, to be honest. But Charles Leclerc just unlucky. What's Lyco? Lift and coast, which is just what you'll hear if you ever listen to any of the Ferrari radio messages. It's a maneuver that you have to do sometimes as a Formula One driver to, well, it's for plank wear the Ferraris have to do it because they just run that car so low to the ground. They have to not actually run it at full pace for the entire Grand Prix, otherwise they'll get disqualified for wearing the plank too thin. But Fernando Alonso has snuck through there as the fastest driver in the Aston Martin car. Not one that we were expecting coming into this weekend, but maybe they are just sublime on the medium tyre. We'll see what they can do on the soft compound tyre next. Lando Norris was second quickest. He does seem to have that little bit of an edge, does Lando Norris, over his championship competitors. George Russell slotted into third place. Oscar Piastri in fourth. I say Norris has got an advantage. All 4 of those cars within a tenth of a second of Fernando Alonso's fastest time. So it is certainly tight between the top 4 at the moment. And then we have Kimi Antonelli, the closest outside of that 10th. He was 5th fastest overall. Isaac Hadjar maintained 6th. Lance Stroll was 7th. Verstappen did not improve and stayed 8th. Charles Leclerc went for a spin but managed 9th. And Nico Hülkenberg sneaking through there in his Stake Sauber car. Verstappen on the radio. The car is completely broken. It's just undrivable, the words of Max Verstappen. Not very comfortable inside of that Red Bull car. Let's see if they can jump back in and get those soft compound tyres on and see what changes they can make before Max Verstappen has to go out once again. Fernando is faster than you. At the moment, he's faster than everybody. Fernando Alonso. Imagine Fernando goes on to win a sprint race, but not a Grand Prix. Do we still count that as 33? I don't know if we can. Not sure it counts. It's like when Oscar Piastri got his debut win, but it was during the Qatar sprint race. It's like, it is a win in Formula One, but are we putting it in the history books? Maybe, maybe not. LA33. I mean, if he can keep this up, we'll see what he can do in qualifying tomorrow compared to today. 32.5. Yeah, that'd be more like it, I think. Be more like it. Not quite the full 33, is it? Here we go. 8 minutes on the clock. Again, I think most drivers will back themselves to be able to do 2 laps in these conditions, as long as they can get out moderately early. Drivers towards the back end of these first runs might have to rush it a tiny bit. Yes, I count it. I don't know if you can count it. You might count it. Not sure most would. Feel bad a little bit for Gabriel Bortoleto down there in 14th place. Hope he does a little bit better during the full qualifying. Although the race pace of the Stake Sauber car is fairly decent at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see. Sprint qualifying 3 then underway to set the grid for the start of the sprint race tomorrow. We'll be live for that as well, so make sure that if you are new to the channel, you hit that subscribe button. If you're over on Twitch, hit the follow button. Trying to get to 150,000 subscribers before the end of the season. Getting close, 145 we just ticked over a couple of days ago after the additional video upload yesterday. Dan No Skill will definitely count it. Then we definitely can't. If Dan says yes, I say no. That's where our relationship is at. Oscar Piastri out ahead of Lando Norris, interestingly. George Russell is going to be the first driver to set a flying lap time. Antonelli, Leclerc, Piastri, Norris out on track. Maybe everybody else going for a different strategy. 5 drivers out on track. 5 drivers still in the pits. Alonso, Hadjar, Stroll, Verstappen, Hülkenberg. Nowhere to be seen as George Russell puts on the soft compound tyres for the first time and goes for a flying lap. Charles Leclerc just coming across the start-finish line as well. George Russell sets the standard at a 17.8 through the first sector. Kimi Antonelli, DRS open in the sister Mercedes car, and is not quite able to outdo his teammate. A 17.834 for Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc, even slower still, a 17.935. Can Oscar Piastri outdo George Russell in the first part of the lap? Oh, it's a little snap from George Russell. Oscar Piastri, though, cannot go quicker than Russell through the first part of this lap. An 18.1 from Piastri and a 17.8 from Lando Norris. So advantage Lando Norris in the battle of the McLarens, but advantage George Russell overall, although Kimi Antonelli takes the fastest middle sector as Russell puts in a 1.9 0.5. Here comes Kimi Antonelli. Was quicker than his teammate through the middle part of the lap, which is usually the one that counts. Here he comes across the line. He is indeed 0.2 of a second faster, although Oscar Piastri has just taken the fastest middle sector time from him. And Lando Norris has just gone even quicker in that middle sector still. So Lando Norris does indeed have the advantage over his teammate at the moment. Piastri can't even trouble the Mercedes cars. Antonelli and Russell quicker than Oscar. Lando Norris is going to go to the top of the timing sheets. He is indeed 1/10 of a second, or just under 1/10 of a second quicker than Kimi Antonelli in second place. George Russell third, Oscar Piastri fourth, Charles Leclerc fifth, as Nico Hülkenberg wakes from his slumber and he starts to make his way down to turn 3 is where you join the track. He's going to come out just ahead of Lando Norris, and starting to warm up his tyres is Nico Hülkenberg. George Russell just didn't look super comfortable on the soft compound tyre through that middle part of the lap. Couple of, went very wide actually at turn 10, did George Russell. And Oscar Piastri also not comfortable inside of his McLaren. Oh, a big mistake through turn 1 from Oscar Piastri. Just a snap and had to gather his thoughts before attacking turn 1 again. Nico Hülkenberg is indeed out on track. Just over 3.5 minutes left to go. 3 minutes 40 seconds to run. Hülkenberg, the only car out on track that is going to set a flying lap time anytime soon. Norris and Piastri still making their way back around to come into the pits once more. Hülkenberg is going to have basically the entire track to himself as long as nobody comes out of the pits now. Hülkenberg across the start-finish line. This is going to be his one run at it, you would feel. And he's going to have the whole circuit to himself. First podium, of course, scored in his entire career this year. Nico Hülkenberg has been sublime in the midfield once again. For many, was the best midfield driver last year when he was at Haas. He's continued to show his quality once again here in 2025. And now is running at it. Piastri and Norris deciding not to pit, by the way. Kept themselves out on track. Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar making their way down the pit lane. Let's see what Nico Hülkenberg's done. It's an 18.1 through the first sector from Hülkenberg. Just coming around turn 11 now. See what you can do through the middle part of the lap. He's about 0.5 of a second shy of Lando Norris's lap time. So it doesn't feel like Hülkenberg's going to really get in the mix here. But you never know. Final sector. It's all about speed. DRS open for Hülkenberg. Comes across the line. Yeah, he's 0.6 of a second adrift and needs a little bit of help if he's going to be able to make his way through. And start in 6th place does Nico Hülkenberg. Max is coming out. He is indeed. He's just coming around turn 6 and 7 at this point. Towards turn 8, Fernando Alonso making his way ahead of him in turn 9 is also a man to keep an eye on. Fastest of anybody in the second part of qualifying here. Piastri going for another flying lap then. Lance Stroll ahead of him. Kimi Antonelli also making his way around. George Russell is now trying to get past Nico Hülkenberg in the middle part of the lap. Lando Norris now starting his final flying lap of the afternoon as well. Just over a minute left of this session, but we're going to see some flying laps coming in very, very soon. Fernando Alonso is across the start-finish line to set his one and only flying lap time. It's got one chance here as Fernando Alonso. Same for Max Verstappen, who's also just come across the start-finish line. Lando Norris has gone quickest of anybody in the first part of the lap. A 17.756 from Lando Norris. Here comes Alonso. 17.841 is within 1/10 of a second. And Max Verstappen actually outdoes Lando Norris to take the purple first sector away from him. Lando Norris just coming towards the end of the middle sector. Piastri ahead of him. Piastri at 35.3 through the middle part of the lap. Lance Stroll goes 5th fastest of anybody, but Lando Norris has matched his teammate through the middle part of the lap. This is going to be very tight indeed. Oscar Piastri goes 3rd fastest of anybody at the moment, so Lando Norris keeping provisional pole. Don't know if Lando Norris is even going to improve. Does a tiny little bit, but he is still on pole position by a 1/10 of a second from Kimi Antonelli. Here comes Fernando Alonso. Max Verstappen, a decent middle sector as well. Fernando Alonso, 2.5 tenths off the flying lap time pace of Lando Norris. Slots himself into 4th. Max Verstappen lost it all in the middle part of the lap, did Max. 6th fastest from Verstappen. Isaac Hadjar, he's only got one shot at it. Comes across the line to go 9th fastest, quicker than Nico Hülkenberg, who's in the pits and will not improve. Russell and Antonelli to come then. Can George Russell take pole here? No. He goes 4th fastest and displaces Fernando Alonso down to 5th. But Norris, Antonelli, Piastri still are going to be our top 3. It's just whether Kimi Antonelli can start one place higher. He's a 1/10 of a second down on Lando Norris through the middle part of the lap. Has not improved, the Italian, through the middle part of the lap either. So it's going to be very tough if he's going to do it through this final part. I don't think he's going to be able to, and he does not improve. Kimi Antonelli stays 2nd fastest, and the championship leader, Lando Norris, will also lead the pack going into turn 1 for tomorrow's sprint race. Oscar Piastri, his closest championship rival, starts a couple of positions behind. It's a little mix of Mercedes and McLaren in the front 2 rows. Norris, Antonelli, Piastri, Russell are top 4. Fernando Alonso could only manage 5th once they swapped onto the soft compound tyres. Max Verstappen down in 6th place. Lance Stroll was 7th. Charles Leclerc 8th. Isaac Hadjar 9th. And Nico Hülkenberg in 10th place. Of course, remembering the top 8 tomorrow will score points for the sprint. So Isaac Hadjar and Nico Hülkenberg will need to improve on that. Hamilton, Albon, Gasly, Bortoletto and Behrman were the 5 drivers that we lost in sprint qualifying 2. Colapinto, Lawson, Tsunoda, Ocon and Sainz, the 5 drivers that will be starting at the back of the pack. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate you stopping by. Apologies for the slight delay in the start of the stream, but it won't happen tomorrow. Don't you worry. We'll be back once again. If you could help me out massively and hit the top link in the description below and just go over and watch the video that I made yesterday about this championship battle between Norris, Piastri and Verstappen, and looked at your guys' predictions for the final few races of the season. That would really help me out if you could go over there, leave a like on that video as well, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and as I said, we will be live tomorrow for the Brazilian sprint. Lando Norris, the advantage for now. Still a long way to go in the championship, though, it feels. 1 point ahead of his teammate going to tomorrow's sprint. Still a sprint race, a qualifying and a Grand Prix to come here in Brazil, and we'll be live for all of it. See you very soon.